Seize, search, arrest, even without a warrant. Enforcement Directorate powers are upheld by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says it's for the accused to prove innocence. The ED doesn't have to prove their guilt. Is the Supreme Court order an advantage to the centre and the ED? Meanwhile, Sonia Gandhi at the ED again. Today was the last day of questioning. The Congress says the ED has now been weaponized after this order. SpiceJet departures are cut by 50% over safety issues. In tough action by the aviation regulator regarding safety concerns, they sent a letter saying that there's inadequate maintenance and a degradation of safety standards. Till this is fixed, 50% of departures will be grounded. SpiceJet responds saying we've already rescheduled our flights in the lean season. No flights will be cancelled. We are cooperating with the regulator. The government's booster shot for BSNL, a revival package of 1.64 lakh crores for BSNL. The telecom minister says 4G spectrum will be given in exchange for equity and BSNL will get 5G in a year. A BJP Yuva Morcha worker murdered in Karnataka. Protests erupt. The state party chief's car is attacked by BJP workers. BJP youth workers protest against the chief minister and home minister of the state, ask for their resignation. 21 crores and counting. More cash found in West Bengal as the Enforcement Directorate claims more cash is found at another flat of Arpita Mukherjee, a close associate of West Bengal TMC Minister Partho Chatterjee. And the world's biggest chess event, the Chess Olympiad, begins tomorrow in Chennai as the city of grandmasters gets ready. We look at why Chennai loves chess. Our lead story tonight, the Supreme Court has upheld the powers of the centrally controlled Enforcement Directorate to search, seize and arrest without a warrant. The judges in their order said that it is for the people to prove their innocence, the accused to prove their innocence. It's not for the ED to prove that they're guilty before they carry out these arrests under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Here's the top story.
Several opposition leaders are being investigated by the Enforcement Directorate, and today the central agency received a big shot in the arm. The Supreme Court upheld the stringent provisions of Prevention of Money Laundering Act or PMLA, including the power to search, seize and arrest. 242 pleas, including by politicians Congress MP Karti Chidambaram and former Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh, now in jail, alleged that the laws violate fundamental rights and ED is misusing its powers. The top court upheld several powers of the Enforcement Directorate, including the burden of proof is on the accused. ED need not prove guilt. Special power to arrest, seize, search without warrant. Statements made during interrogation can be evidence in court. No need to provide case information copy to the accused. PMLA can be applied retrospectively for offences committed before 2002. The court in its verdict said that money laundering is no less heinous than terrorism. It affects social and economic fabric of the nation. It impacts sovereignty and integrity of countries. Special enactments are required to tackle new situations. During the hearings, Centre had defended the amendments to PMLA, saying money laundering is conducted not just by corrupt businessmen like Vijay Mallya, Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi, but also terror groups. It had said that proceeds of crime worth 18,000 crore rupees had been returned to banks in case of the 3 fugitives and 982 crore rupees had been seized in terror cases. While the BJP welcomed the verdict, Congress says the law is being misused.
Court has just now upheld the PMLA and the ED's jurisdiction, and the Supreme Court has said very clearly that they have that jurisdiction and PMLA is within the ambit of the legal ambit in which it is working. We should respect the law and we should respect the law of the land.
सोनिया जी को बुलाया है और आज तीसरी बार है और पता नहीं वो कब तक बुलाए हैं। तो ये जो ईडी का आतंक है देश के अंदर, ये आतंक मचा रखा है, इसका फैसला जल्दी होना चाहिए।
Ironically, it was the UPA government that implemented the law in 2005. But it was the NDA government which made amendments in 2019 that led to the provisions becoming more stringent. After 2019, neither an FIR nor an arrest warrant was necessary to probe the case and carry out search and seizure. Since 2019, there has been a 5-fold jump in cases. Money laundering searches have gone up 26 times under the Modi government, but the conviction rate is still low. Over 3,000 searches have taken place in the last 8 years, but only 23 people have been convicted. In New Delhi, with camera person AJ Joseph, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
And that perhaps is a big question, why there are so few convictions. But the heat continued today on Mamata Banerjee's minister. Partho Chatterjee is also facing an ED probe under the PMLA as more cash, the ED claims, has been found from the house of his close aide, Arpita Mukherjee. The ED broke open the lock of that flat today and they say that they have found more cash. Remember, 21 crores were found from her residence just last week, which the ED had to bring in, the bank had to bring in trunks to actually carry out that amount of money. And another flat of hers raided. The ED claims that more money has been found. We're waiting for a response from her lawyer. In Parliament, however, the focus remained the clash between the government and the opposition as another MP was suspended today, this time Sonia Singh of ARP. The big focus remains the price rise debate the government says is likely to happen next week, though ARP was trying to raise the deaths of people in the Hooch tragedy in Gujarat. However, the government seems firm, with the Rajya Sabha chairman saying that the suspended MPs will not be allowed back into Parliament unless they express regret for their misconduct.
I am constant to invoke Rule 256 and name Sri Sanjay Singh. Sanjay Singh be suspended from the services of the House for the remaining...
Day 8 and same scenes. Opposition members in the well of the House protesting suspension of 24 members in both the houses and demanding discussion over GST hike and price rise.
हमने उनसे रिक्वेस्ट यही किया कि आप जो सस्पेंड किए ये अच्छा नहीं है। डेमोक्रेसी में हम अपनी बात रखना चाहते हैं, महंगाई पे अपनी बात रखना चाहते हैं, जीएसटी पे अपनी बात रखना चाहते हैं। आप इसको डेट दीजिए, समय दीजिए और हम बोलने के लिए तैयार हैं।
Please leave the house. You have been suspended, Mr. Sanjay Singh.
Aam Aadmi Party Rajya Sabha MP Sanjay Singh was also suspended on Wednesday. Rajya Sabha chairman had made it clear that suspensions will only be revoked if MPs express regret over their behavior. Government defended the actions against the opposition members, accusing them of indulging in unruly behavior and disrupting the parliament proceedings.
We are trying to request them with folded hands. We are ready for discussion. Is it not the courtesy that still at least FM comes to the parliament? Should they not wait? And parliament is not going to end tomorrow. Parliament is there up to 12th. At least this much they should understand and they should talk something sense.
Sources say Rajya Sabha Chairman Venkaiah Naidu had a meeting with opposition leaders and union ministers wherein it has been decided to hold discussion on price rise issue early next week. With camera person Joseph, this is Arvind Gunasekar for NDTV.
And let's move to our other big breaking story tonight. SpiceJet and the aviation regulator cracking down on the airline. It's amongst the biggest in India for safety concerns, safety issues. In fact, Vishnu, as they've quoted in the letter, they've said an actual degradation of safety because of lax maintenance and other issues. What was the biggest worries the DGCA had?
Well, the DGCA has a couple of worries. They're worried about the airline operating on what are called minimum equipment lists. You're actually allowed to operate the aircraft using minimum equipment because aircraft have redundant systems on board, but ideally you shouldn't be doing that. Secondly, they point out that the airline is on cash and carry. In other words, they pay for the fuel ahead of every single flight. The aircraft is then fueled up and a flight takes off. And thirdly, there are concerns about suppliers not being paid on time. So those are some of the concerns which were actually raised, flight safety issues. Also concerns being raised by the regulator on several flights having to return in the last little while after taking off. There have been technical snags also which have been reported, several of them. So SpiceJet was actually given an opportunity to respond. They did respond, but the regulator has now said that, look, for a period of 8 months, 8 weeks, I should say, you can only operate 50% of your allotted flights. Now, the important and interesting bit over here is that SpiceJet isn't operating 100% of their allotted flights. They are only operating approximately 50% of their allotted flights, which is why they say that no flight which exists now or is flying now will be affected. But this is only small consolation because every airline seeks to add on more flights. It's lean season now. It will not be lean season soon. So they will not be able to mount additional flights, even if they have rights to do so, until they get their act together. That's the message from the DGCA.
Right, and of course SpiceJet has responded saying that we're cooperating with the regulator. But Sonakshi, you're at the airport now. For a passenger who's flying, what's the big concern they have now after such a strongly worded letter on safety concerns by the DGCA?
Well, Sonia, adding to what Vishnu just told us, I'm here at the domestic airport here in the national capital. This is the arrival here. Of course, because of airport authorities having certain protocols in place, we spoke to a few passengers verbally, and what I'm made to understand, I did tell the passengers at first that this is what the DGCA has come out with an order with, and the passengers then were surprised that this action has been taken by the aviation regulator. The passengers also say that in the last few weeks, they did see the news of airlines having air safety concerns, and given that passenger safety is paramount, in the words of the aviation minister, Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia, the passengers here said that there needed to be action. There's some action had to be taken on this because passengers were worried in the last few weeks after listening and looking at reports of airlines making emergency landings.
Right. Sonakshi, thanks so much for that update, and let's see what happens really, but it's good to know that the aviation regulator and the ministry is tracking this. But let's just go across to the other big headline tonight, Priyanshi, which is really the government's booster shot for BSNL. Why has it happened, and what will it actually mean now for BSNL and for Indian consumers?
Sonia, definitely a booster shot for BSNL, as you said, but there are many questions and many challenges that BSNL still faces. First, let's tell you what the government's plan is, what their vision is, and what are the steps that are announced today. The government has announced a revival package of 1.64 lakh crore, and out of this, 44,000 crore is in cash, while 1.2 lakh crore is in non-cash. Now, let's take you through the major parts of this package and what really the government's aim is. Number one, BSNL will be allotted spectrum in the 900 and 1800 megahertz band at the cost of 44,993 crore, and this the government will do through equity infusion. That will help BSNL go 4G, as it's currently of course on 2G or 3G. Number two, to meet the projected capital expenditure for the next 4 years, government will fund capex for BSNL for 22,471 crore. Number three, AGR dues of BSNL that are amounting to 33,400 crore will all be settled by conversion into equity. The government will convert these dues into equity. Next, BSNL will be merged with BharatNet, and this, the government says, will help in wider infrastructure. The government says BSNL will earn profits in the next 4 years, and it will in fact go 4G in a year or so. BSNL will become better than other service providers is what the government is claiming. And as per the government itself, BSNL is adding 1 lakh customers every month as a part of an experiment, and it says it will help rural 4G penetration, and they've set a target of getting 29,616 uncovered villages all covered under 4G. And they say that BSNL is at par with other companies, but the reality is different. BSNL has been struggling for the past few years, and the government had earlier announced a revival package in 2019 as well. BSNL's market share is just at 10% in wireless services. Jio has 409 million subscribers. Airtel has 362 million. That's Vodafone Idea, has 358. BSNL has just 113 million subscribers. So its share is the lowest among major telecom companies. We'll have to see what happens next. Government, of course, is saying BSNL will make profits by FY27. So still 4 years to that. Last year, the losses were double of that year at 15,500 crore. Last year, BSNL made losses of 7,400 crore. The IT minister says that villages in many parts still trust BSNL, and they will now be able to use 4G, and he says that it's a plan that will actually boost the revenue of BSNL, but we'll of course have to see how the rural India really affords more expensive 4G. But of course, let's listen in to the minister's plan and vision.
BSNL will be able to expand its 4G services to more than about 1,20,000 sites के आसपास BSNL will be able to expand its 4G services. इतना अगर BSNL की इनकम आती है, अच्छी सर्विस भी मिलती है एक तरफ, दूसरी तरफ BSNL का रेवेन्यू भी इंक्रीज होता है, तो BSNL एक सस्टेन्ड एंटिटी बन सकता है.
So the government's ambitious bet there on BSNL. But let's go across to Karnataka, where the death of a BJP Yuva Morcha worker has led to huge protests, with youth workers of the BJP protesting against the Chief Minister and the State Home Minister, saying no action is being taken to protect BJP workers.
BJP youth workers targeting the vehicle of the BJP's party president, Nalin Kumar Katir, trying to topple his car in Bellary village of Dakshin Kannada district of Karnataka. They were protesting the murder of a Yuva Morcha worker, 32-year-old Praveen Nettar in Mangaluru. The state president was going to Praveen's home to condole his death. The murder in a highly polarized region of Karnataka has divided the BJP right up to the top. A party legislator criticizing his own government.
More than 14 members was butchered after the inception of this government. No, it's not fair. It's not good to the government also.
They are trying to identify the culprits. Very soon they will be nabbed. Second thing is, since it's very close to Kerala border, the Karnataka police is in touch with Kerala police.
Praveen's body was carried in a procession at his hometown in Sulya Taluk. Despite the ban on gatherings of more than 5 people, a number of people from various Hindu right-wing organizations gathered to protest against the BJP government. Praveen was attacked around 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, a few meters away from his poultry farm. 3 unidentified bike-borne persons attacked him.
ಏನು ತನಿಖೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅದನ್ನು ಸೂಕ್ತ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂಥ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ತನಿಖೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡೋದ್ರೊಳಗಡೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕ್ರಮ ವಹಿಸ್ತಾನೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಕುಟುಂಬದ ಸದಸ್ಯರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಇಲ್ಲಿನ ಏನು ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಟಮ್ನ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತು ಅಂತ್ಯಕ್ರಿಯೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಇದರೊಳಗಡೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತು ದಕ್ಷಿಣ ಕನ್ನಡ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಏನು ಶಾಂತಿ ಸುವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯನ್ನು ಕಾಪಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಒಪ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಮುಂದಿನ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ತನಿಖೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
Police are investigating his social media pages, and this includes the Facebook post on the Udaipur killing defending Kannaya Lal. The investigating officer confirmed to NDTV the bike used by the killers had a Kerala number plate. Another line of investigation is whether this is a revenge killing for last week's murder of a Muslim youth who was murdered in Bellary, about 300 kilometers from Bengaluru, allegedly by right-wing activists.
Less than a year to 2023 elections, Basuraj Bommai-led BJP government has been mired in controversies, from corruption to now being accused by his own party members, that is Yuva Morcha members, where they go on to accuse him for failing to protect their own party workers. In Bengaluru, with camera person Kumar Srija for NDTV.
Thanks, Shija, for that update. And developing news coming in tonight. The government has now asked for bids from Indian vaccine manufacturers to make the monkeypox vaccine. The centre has invited expression of interest from experienced vaccine manufacturers. The centre said that they're in talk with vaccine manufacturers to see if an Indian vaccine for monkeypox can be developed. They added that if the monkeypox vaccine needs to be developed, we have a strong capacity in India to make the vaccine. The last date for submission of this expression of interest is the 10th of August. And the WHO has just released its latest advisory on monkeypox. Ankita, what are the details?
Right. Yes, indeed, Sonia. Those details coming in right now, and the ICMR also saying it's inviting bids from those who have the capability to develop the vaccine if needed. Now, as we said, as we've been reporting, more than 70% of cases so far have been reported from the European region, 25% of cases from the Americas, and so far, in fact, 5 deaths reported and about 10% of cases admitted to hospitals. The WHO also talking about monkeypox at this point, and saying 18,000 cases have been reported from 78 countries.
In fact, Ankita, if I can just come in there, because it also adds the WHO, and this is interesting, because it makes the point that stigma and discrimination can be as dangerous as any virus and can fuel the outbreak. Now, this is a reminder, of course, of what happened during the HIV epidemic. The WHO adds that although 98% of cases so far are among men who have sex with men, that anyone exposed can get monkeypox, which is why WHO recommends that countries take action to reduce the risk of transmission to other vulnerable groups, including children, pregnant women and those who are immunosuppressed. So that seems to be an important point they're focusing on, Ankita.
Yes. Also, the last date for submission of interest, as we're hearing right now, Sonia, is the 10th of August. And clearly the government doesn't want to be sort of caught unawares in any sense at all, which is why it's asking for these bids to make possible monkeypox vaccine. Whether this is in fact going to go ahead or not still remains to be seen, but the centre inviting expressions of interest now, as we've been reporting from experienced vaccine manufacturers. So India effectively saying that it does have the capacity. There are those who can manufacture these vaccines, and so all readiness at the moment happening for that.